Hey everybody, welcome, hope you're doing fantastic. So, we're continuing our Patreon requested book, an overall book review and textual analysis and commentary of Hamza Yusuf's commentary of Imam Maulud's Mathrat al Qulub poetry book, but also expands upon Sufi's interpretation of Islam, from my understanding. Yet we are not finished, so I can't judge the book until I'm fully done. But thus far, it's been highly thought-provoking. So let's continue our journey. We are on page 54, and if you have your copy as well. Okay, so let's begin. Interestingly, in Chinese medicinal theory, there is a direction connection between the tongue and the heart. Okay, so Chinese medicine definitely helped me with my Bell's palsy. So indeed, I did love going to Chinatown in San Francisco and getting good teas. Haven't been able to go back for a while. It's too dangerous to go in the city right now in certain parts, and it's just not worth it. But when they open back up, I do hope to go and get some good tea. Even the movement of the tongue affects the heart. Yeah, so okay, in Islam, you cannot have certain words and stuff, right? And the more that I've been reducing the words in which I say, especially the very vulgar words, like sometimes I really just want to say just something very blunt and harsh, and it makes me feel, well, it used to really make me feel good when I do that, like, like it felt really good. And I definitely felt it in my chest of like more tension, right? Just like, ugh. But now it's like, I don't know, it's more steady, more controlled, like just more controlled, like I don't know how to explain it. It's just quite different. And I do think that has a direct connection to that which I choose to say and read and imitate, right? The essence of ostentation is being occupied with people instead of God. According to a hadith, the Prophet, peace be upon him, told Aisha that everybody will be naked on the day of resurrection. Aisha exclaimed, "Will they not look at each other?" The Prophet, peace be upon him, told her, "The day of resurrection will be immensely greater than that." In other words, people will be in such a state of awe and trepidation that they will not care about seeing anyone. They will only concern themselves with their own souls and salvation. Okay, so I said this literally the same thing that Aisha said. I thought the same thing. It was like, what? Like a horrible sight. Too many just bumpities out and about. But if it's such awe-inspiring, because we get distracted so easy. Think about it. Like sometimes you can be in class and someone could just be doing something like this, and you'll be like, and someone just talking, and you're like, it's weird how you can focus on one little tiny thing, and we assume our attention span is so weak. But here it's like on the day of judgment, he's contending for us, as written down in a hadith, that the awe will not even allow the possibility for you to notice something as like tiny as that. Now, I have OCD. A lot of people have OCD, and they all have their own little habits and stuff like that. So the fact that people with ADHD and ADHD and ADD will be so awe-inspired that they won't notice nudity or something weird in their vicinity or out of place or just something really strange is really quite amazing, because it just shows how the over awesomeness and glory will just radiate throughout all your entire perceived nervous system and just completely change your state out of your even control, right? That's amazing. Just through your eyes witnessing what's around you. Probably the emotions and the environment, who knows, but it's quite awe-inspiring. The essential point about worship is that it should be done purely for the sake of God. Yes, we've learned that very well. When one cleanses the soul of anything that tarnishes one's intentions, one's knowledge of God will increase. Okay, notice this. Okay, I think that's very true. if you having things around that make the intentions different, I mean, why should you have that privilege? Why should you have that blessing and opportunity, right? If you really wanted the will of God to be bestowed upon you, you'd have to put some effort into reforming yourself. And if you thought something was absurd, you should investigate it. As a consequence, everything else in the world will grow insignificant. Everything else in the world growing insignificant. Imagine how awestruck the Prophet, peace be upon him, must have been when he saw the angel Gabriel, Jibril, may Allah be pleased with him, in his true form, his majestic wings filling the horizon. I mean, the only thing I can think of is, when I come to mind is, I know this sounds like a weird example, but it's the only one I can think of. When Arjuna saw Krishna's form, he became freaked out, right? The Prophet, we have a story of him in one of the hadiths. He saw Jibril sitting on a chair type thing, huge in there in the sky, right? So it's like, whoa, it's quite an awe-inspiring thing. Then imagine worshipping God, the eternal, the infinite, the glorious. To worship God as if one sees him is a characteristic of excellence in worship. Ihsan, okay, Ihsan. Excellence in worship is the theological term is ihsan. Okay, so worship God as if you see him, as if like you really okay, he's watching me. I feel like you can get in that zone if you have like a window. I feel, or in window. I don't know. When there's like a big scene and I feel like under the sky and you're facing towards the Kaaba and there's like nothing impeding your view of just the raw sky, clouds, right? There's no buildings in your way or another like something obstructing your view. I feel like that helps to kind of like help your mind more, although closing your eyes and figuring out how to clear it can also help. But that seems like a task we all have to work on. Seeking to impress humans is a pathetic exercise, an utter waste of time and life, for humanity is in constant and total need of God. If one wants to be close to power and authority, then one should not chase men of position and station. Rather, one should seek closeness with God, the Master of the universe, the Creator of all things. There is absolutely no power or might except with Him. So that sounds very on the surface easy, right? Oh, well, I don't chase after any people. I don't do that. That's just not true. Everything's about networking now. People now try to destroy each other's careers simply because they think different than them. They're labeling them with horrific terms simply for having their own free minds. And they're doing it to get power and authority through virtue signaling and, putting their boat on the mainstream and, smacking everyone else in a little river with a paddle as they go by. I mean, there's a lot of psychology behind the work environment and workers being flattering people pleasers against their own nature and becoming alienated and seeking to just get authority and power on the glitz and glamour and really not even thinking of God, but instead thinking of when's the next payday and, their interest payments on their cards and such. It's quite sad. It's quite sad. Truly.